Record. Yes, so we're recording. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to let Lettie introduce herself, but just a couple housekeeping things. We're going to make this an interactive session just because there's not many of us, and it's kind of more fun to be able to ask questions as you have them. So if you just keep yourself mute until you have a question and then ask it, and then just mute again when you're done. And I don't know if there's any other housekeeping stuff. We're putting all the recordings on our Vimeo page. The San Marcos Art League has a Vimeo page now, and so all the ones we've done are there, and this will go up there as well. And if you are someone that's an artist and would like to maybe do a demo, or if you know people who would like to do a demo, have them get in touch with the Art League. I think it's at info@sanmarcosartleague.org. Because we'd like to keep these going even after we can actually all see each other in person maybe again one day. so yeah, so take it away, Lettie.
Okay, so hi everybody, my name is Lettie Duncan. I've been doing art for as long as I can think of since I was in high school. So I do a lot of painting classes for private parties, and I do them for the senior living, and they really love it. So that's why I'm here to show you how to create a owl. As you see, this is a small picture so that we can have it for the camera, but we're going to make a bigger size on a canvas. So first what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the supplies so you can just kind of have a little idea. I'm very relaxed, and I don't stick to the rules all the time, as you'll notice. So basically, we're only going to use 3 brushes, as you see here. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy them, but we have a flat brush, a little round brush here that's pointed, because this will help with the feathers, and then the really thin brush. Now, like I said, if you don't have these on hand, you know, you can find whatever you can, you know, even one of these big paintbrushes is fine too. So as you can see, it doesn't matter if it's the most expensive or less expensive. From what I've learned, I just use what I like to use. So then you want, you know, a container of water, which is, you know, a plastic cup is fine. You do want a piece of chalk, and I'll talk about that, and maybe a pencil if you want that, and something to sign your name with. And I like a little felt pen because it's easier than trying to do it with your paint. Okay, then I'm going to talk about what do you want to paint it on. You can paint it on just some paper. You can do it on a canvas with this size. You can also do it on wood, as you see. And so the wood also will give you, you can do any scrap of wood, and believe it or not, I use a lot of plastic recycled stuff. So these are basically taking grocery bags and using an iron and iron them out, and you can actually paint on this and recycle stuff. You do want to use a piece of paper in between your iron as you iron it down so it won't melt on your iron. So that's really fun to have. So it just gives you some ideas to think out of the box. So you want to have something that you want to do. We're going to, I'm going to show you a little bit of the stroke first that we're going to work on for the background, but then we're going to talk about the colors. So here's the colors. We have white, black, yellow, and a light blue. And you can use any kind of blue that you have. You can just put a little bit of white in it to get it, and we have red. Okay, and you can put your paints. This is a little plastic thing, or you can use a paper plate, or you can use paper, which is another option. And you can see that mine is very messy. So that's my favorite one because it's flat and I can use it. So there's just a couple of tips to help you with your painting. Low key, nothing for you to worry about. So the first color that we're going to take to do our next step is we're going to take our flat brush first. Now, since we're, you know, available, we're only doing this within an hour. I've kind of went ahead and did most of the yellow already, but I'm going to show you how the stroke is done. So basically, what I like to do is wet it just a little bit, not very much, just your brush in the water. And of course you want to have a paper towel, or I like to use old towels because they're thicker for me. I don't like to waste a lot of paper towels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the yellow and I'm going to put it on my brush as much as I can. You don't have to have any water with it because it's acrylic. And what I always teach people to do is that we're going to put our base color down first. And you're going to go all the way up and all the way down. Okay? All the way up and all the way down. Okay? And as we're doing that, we're getting a really nice stroke that we can get our paint on, and up and down. And if you don't want to do yellow, you're more than welcome to change the background. I like bright colors because I want what's going to be in my picture to stand out. So that's a lot of times what I do. So as you see, if you see like mine is it kind of dragging like that, what I end up doing is I add a little bit more water to my brush, not very much, and then I get some more of the paint. And then you can see how it goes in. You don't need a whole lot of paint. A lot of times I used so much paint. And now I'm getting better where I don't have to use as much. So I just kind of wanted to just show you the basic stroke that's up and down. Of course, the paper moves around a lot more than, you know, the canvas, but this was just to get you the basic stroke down of going up and down. The wider the brush, the more that you can cover. That's why instead of using the smaller brush, we use a wider brush. And you know, you can even go with a wider brush than this is okay too. Okay, so that's the first step, and we're kind of speeding it up just a little bit. And if you're doing it with me, that's okay, don't worry about it. There's no rush. You can always come back for the recording and we can, you can let it, so a lot of it's to let the paint dry, and this is kind of semi-drying, so I'm going to convert it to a canvas, which I had already pre-painted. And so this is the next step that we're going to go, and we're going to talk about how we end up going to draw. I know a lot of times drawing, a lot of people get a little scared, and that's okay. I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit to come out so you can kind of see just a little bit. Now, you can free draw, okay, but if you're, you know, most people I've worked with, they're a little scared about that, okay? So what I do is I tell someone to get something around their house that's circle. It can even be, you know, bottom of the paint. I'm going to use this for a reference, and I'm going to talk about, I'm going to put it in the middle because we're going to make two circles basically so that we can actually get the owl's face. Okay, so what I used to use pencils, and then when I used the pencil, I had a lot of hard time with the acrylic trying to paint over it, and I had to do more layers. So I learned to use chalk, and I use chalk because it will come off easily as you paint over it, and it also comes off with water. So what I do is I go and buy different colors of chalk. Normally it's either blue or orange. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the circle in the middle, and you kind of have to tilt your chalk a little bit to kind of get where you can get a smooth edge, you know, because chalk is interesting how you use chalk, you know, the more you use it. So we're going to do the circle in the middle, and then it's not, you don't have to be perfect, so don't be perfect with it. You know, go on the outside. We're going to do the circle. Okay, and then we got our two circles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this a line across down, and then we're going to go across like that, like a cross. Okay, so that's the two steps that we have. Okay, then to make the body, we're just going to take down from here and kind of just go out. Now it's up to you if you want to make your owl fatter or bigger or however word that you want to use, or skinnier, you know, and I kind of eye it out. And these are not permanent. That's like the fun part about using chalk. When you're drawing, you can draw all you want, and then you come in and put all the acrylic in there. Okay. So as you're doing that, then what I do is I take from here and I take like a finger mark. Okay. And I kind of mark it on each side here. Okay. See how it's just kind of a finger mark. And then what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make a circle. Okay. And it's not going to be perfect. You can see mine are not perfect. And you're going to make another one. And this is going to be our eyes. Okay. So these are just reference points for us. And, you know, when you're painting along and you end up deciding to paint and you look at your painting and you're going, wow, you know, I don't like that. So the good thing about acrylics, you let it dry and paint right all over it. So now we're going to kind of go down about to a little bit, just a little bit above this line here. And we're going to make an upside down triangle. And we're going to kind of make it kind of a long, on the end there. See how that comes? Not quite to the other edge, but pretty close to that edge there. Okay. I'm trying to get the reference in here so y'all can see it too. All right. So this kind of gives you an idea of how that's done. Okay. I'll give you a few minutes in case you're trying to draw it and catching up. Okay. All right. Now, the first color that we're going to use is we're going to use black first. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up taking our other brush, which is the medium-sized point. Okay. Some points, if you have a bigger brush, it's a bigger point. That's okay. You can pretty much do feathers with, I'll show you in just a few minutes. I'm going to show you how to do the feathers. Okay. So let me clean this flat brush here. And I'm going to show you on a piece of paper how we do our strokes. Okay. So we're going to practice, or you can practice on a piece of paper or on the side. You know, I have fabric on here, but I'm going to show it for the demo for. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit. When I take my black, I'm kind of dabbing and rolling like this because it kind of gives me that fine tip that you can kind of see. Here, I'll move it out of the black so you can see. So you can see how it kind of makes that fine tip. So there's all kinds of ways to do feathers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on the paper first so you get an idea. So when we're working with feathers, it depends on what animal you're working with. When you push down a little bit, you get stroke like this. When you push all the way down and then come up, you get strokes like that. And then you reload your paint and you can see that you can get different strokes. Now you put more paint, you push down and then you come up and then you let it out. So you can see you can get all kinds, you can play with this and we get all kinds of strokes. Okay. Now, if I take the flat brush, we can do strokes too. Load it up onto the paint. And when you go this way, you can do strokes. Okay. So you can see how you can form all kinds of feathers. So it's not just one brush, you can do multiple brushes with it. You can even use one of these brushes, which is slanted, and you can do the same thing. When you put it on, you can go this way or barely touch it or go turn it around. I'm such a lefty, this way and get it. So you can see how the strokes, the biggest thing is how you push down and lift up at the end to get that feathery looking. So, and you can even do it with the bigger brushes too. They're a little challenge on some of those brushes, but a lot of it's kind of turning your arm just right and pulling it up. So now you can see that I've used quite a bit, you know, and you can even get the short ones with it, as you see. So you get quite a bit of strokes in different ones, okay? So even with the smaller one, but it takes more paint, but we're gonna stay with the medium-sized one because it works for the canvas that we're working on. So just wanted to make sure that no one had any questions about the strokes, just for a few seconds to make sure that there was no confusion on that one.
That's great.
Okay.
That was really informative. I actually just learned a bunch, so thanks.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of cool that you can get. So I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes it can lose people because I have to go in slow motion. So that's why I wanted to make sure.
You're doing great.
Okay. So now we're going to go back to our picture. Okay. And if I'm going too fast, someone let me know, because sometimes, you know, you kind of get in the groove and you go fast. So just let me know. I don't want to be too fast, but I'm trying to make sure we have more than enough time and that we get everything. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the black again. Okay, so I load up my brush, and I may go ahead and try to get a little bit closer so you can see what we got going on. Okay, so why do I start with the black first? Well, here's the point that I always tell you. Now I like to take my chalk and I have to tell my brain, because my brain wants to overwork sometimes. So I make an arrow that tells my brain, and I have a 5-year-old around me all the time, so I get distracted. So if I'm working on a painting and I have to come back, I put an arrow here, which I can wipe off later. This tells me the sun's coming from this direction. So my dark stuff is going to be on this side and lighter is going to be on this side. So it's a key for my brain, and I've trained my brain to, when it sees it, it knows, and I don't have to think about it, and I don't make any mistakes on my painting. But we're going to start with black because we work with the darker color. That's what I like to work. Now, some artists like to work from the lighter color and then work our way. But our lighter color is going to be the white and the blues. But we're going to start with the black because, as you see in the picture, we're going to start with, I'm hoping you can see this owl, well, okay, with trying to get the lighting right. But we're going to start with the middle of the nose here. So we're just going to kind of do our strokes like small, like this, just because we don't want to get too many. And it's going to be okay as you're doing your stroke that if there's yellow coming through, that's okay, because that's going to give us that three-dimension look that we're having. So we want to kind of meet this down, and I'm looking at my reference too to make sure. We're going to just come down just a little bit down on top of the beak that he has, okay? And as we come out, you can see I'm doing shorter strokes, barely touching at the very end. See, if you saw it on my finger, it's barely the end of it, because you're going to have less mistakes. Now, when we get out to the outer edge, you'll see that we're going to make longer strokes. And that's the fun part. Now let's talk about, well, you know, my hand's not good steady. Well, that's okay, because these strokes are not going to be, you don't want them all to be the same. You kind of want them just to stick out a little bit, okay? So now we're going to go up to the front, or the top, I mean, and we're going to kind of go up a little bit. And you can see how I'm barely just touching it, and I'm moving them around because I want a little bit of peeking of the yellow, because that's kind of like showing the skin of the bird that's going on. So we're just kind of peeking through and kind of going through with that. Now, we're going to put some black that's going to be underneath the beak and kind of go out the same way. So what I try to do is I just kind of outline this a little bit, okay, because we're going to end up coloring that in. And then I start just doing the strokes. And so you can see as I'm doing the strokes, I go left, I go right, I go this way, I go that way. And then I go short like that. And then I come out, okay? And you'll start seeing this more as I'm doing it. And then you'll start to notice the more that you do it, you will start getting, like I'm getting relaxed just doing this myself right now. So within 15 minutes, you keep doing these strokes, before you know it, you're kind of in a meditation state. And don't be so hard on yourself if you're not picking it up. If you're having a hard time, maybe move your fingers back a little bit more or closer. It depends on your hand. You can see that I'm holding it with all 3 fingers. You know, just kind of move it around the way you need. Rest your hand down. If you're having a hard time holding your hand, what I like to do is grab my wrist and use the other, and then I can do those strokes as you see, okay? So you can see how I'm barely touching it. Now, if I wanted these to be thicker, I would push down my brush more, okay? So as we're going around and we're coming back through like this, and we're getting our blocks in, okay? Now, this might be a painting where, you know, I'm showing you all the strokes and because we don't have enough time to do the whole painting, but I'm going to give you the highlights of it. And so what you're going to do is you're going to use these lines to do the black, okay? So I'm going to show you, we're going to go like this, and I'm just using this line that I have that I'm going to curve. Now here's a trick that a lot of people do. Now most artists will just keep their canvas straight, but I'm all about doing what makes it easier. So what I end up doing, and I'm just going to show you, is to keep my strokes good, is I turn my canvas, okay? And then I just keep turning it around. And the reason is because my brain has a hard time. I'm a lefty and I work on a different side of the brain. And if you're like that, now, if that messes up your brain, that's okay. You can put it back and it's all right because you can put it back where it needs to go. And what you're just gonna have to do is just gonna do, like for me, I can do it, but my mind's having a hard time with it. You can keep doing the strokes. So we're only putting a little bit of black because we can always come back, okay? We can always come back. And as you see, I'm just adding the black highlights. I'm not covering it all, okay? So what's next is we're going to go around the outer edge that comes around this whole circle. And these are not going to be as long. I mean, you could make them long if you'd like to, but I kind of just use that guideline and all the feather strokes are going downward. You know, you can see where I'm kind of already like this, they go out this way. And, you know, sometimes you can use a reference, you know, seeing them. Now, if you want them longer, you can come out more longer like this. If that's, you know, there are owls out there that, you know, there's all kinds of color of owls. They're beautiful creatures. If you ever have looked at the pictures or seen some of those shows where they show them. But you can see, how did I do the longer strokes? I kind of push and then just drag. I kind of drag out. So it's like a one stroke. You can see like that. Okay. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put highlights, and I'm going to have to turn it a little bit, is we're going to put the highlights on this side, and it's going to kind of come out. And we're going to have more black on this side because the body needs to be highlighted right in through here. So you can see how I'm doing the highlights, putting them in. Okay. And then, of course, you know, you would keep going all the way around. And then what the next stage you're going to do is you're going to just put a few blacks in between, okay? And they're all not going to be the same. So I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of a general idea of how that's working. And you can see how I don't cover everything because we got to put in the blue and the white also. But I'm giving you some ideas, and then we're going to do it. These strokes are going to be a little bit longer. That one was kind of long, but we're going to put it through here. And you kind of just want to follow the guidelines of what strokes these owls have, you know, the feathers that you have. So just visualize the stroke and keep them kind of the same, but they don't have to look the same. Some can be shorter, and you can see how they kind of come out. You know, I paint pretty fast. You know, some people like to paint fast, some people like to take a longer time, and that's okay. It really depends on what you like. And then when we put over here, we're going to space them out just a little bit more because there's more white on this side as in versus more dark on this side. So now as you see, we kind of put those strokes in, and the more that you get better. Now, if you're having struggles with that brush, do a different brush. Maybe a different brush is better for you. You know, there's so many brushes out there. Some are cheap and some are really expensive, and I've bought the expensive ones and didn't like them, and I've bought the cheap ones and didn't like them. And then I find some that are just in between. And that's the same with paint too. So anyways, get the black over here. And so I'm just going to kind of do a little bit on this side so you can kind of see what I'm working at. And as I said, we may not be able to finish it all, but you have a pretty good idea once you get off the meeting. You kind of know exactly how the strokes are. So you can see how sometimes you can push down and you can get these strokes. And it all depends, just kind of keep working at it to get the strokes.
You're just at 4:30, so you're doing okay. You've got time.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know, time is kind of like, to me, it disappears.
Right, when you're making especially, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. When you're getting in the zone, and I'm getting in the zone by just looking. Now we're going to add one more thing with the black. And what we're going to do is we're going to make these little, we're going to take from the circle, and then we're going to kind of go up. And it's kind of like we're giving him like those eyebrows. I'm not sure if really an owl has an eyebrow. I don't know if I've ever been close enough to see. Or you can go the backwards and go that way, you know. And you know, it kind of gives him that look like he has when you've ever seen. I've seen a few owls look at me. So that's why we put that in there, because it gives it a character. I always have to put something funny in my paintings that really make you notice, hey, you know, owl's got these eyes, you know, or you know, different animals have different things and different colors. And I say, you know, if you like to mess with color, I say go for it, because I have all kinds of animals with different colors, and people just love it when they see the paintings. So what you're going to do is clean that brush out, and we're going to go to the eyes next. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute and show you, making sure I got it right. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to mix a color. Okay. And we're going to do the orange. It's kind of a like an orangey color, darker orange. And what I'm going to show you is that we're going to take a scoop of yellow and put it down below, and a scoop of red, and we're going to mix it together. And this is fun. I like doing this. This is always fun. I like mixing colors. I could go buy some orange, and have before, but I like playing with it. It makes me feel like a kid. When we were kids, we always mixed things. Okay. Now, if you like that orange, go ahead and use that orange. I like to come over and take just very little black. Oh, if I can get that. Okay. Very little black. And then I try to mix it in. Now, sometimes you might get too much, and that's okay. But see, that came out perfect. It was almost like an orangey browned color. And we just kind of getting that in there to mix that up to make that color. We got an orange there. All right, so we're going to paint the eyes and its beak orange. Now, if this brush is too big, go ahead and go to a smaller brush. You know, a lot of people's hands are different. They're made different. So we're going to color in. And don't, you know, I always get the question, I can't do this straight. That's okay. Just keep working at it, you know, and just hold your, you could either, you know, hold your hand, prop it up on something, and, you know, turn your canvas. You know, if you can't get that circle, this is what I do, is I turn the canvas. And because I'm such a, maybe because I'm a lefty is why I have to turn it a lot. I mean, when I'm using power tools, I mean, it gets really funny because I'm, you know, I'm such a lefty. They don't make power tools for lefty people. So I'm always moving around and trying to be safe, you know, at the same time. But anyways, you could see that, you know, I kind of messed up a little bit, and that's okay. They say that, you know, you can either let it dry or you can use a wipey. And I think the wipey works, you know, those little wipies, you can wipe it off. I think it only works certain times and certain canvases. It's not 100%. But what I always tell people is if, you know, like me looking at this, you know, my eye, one of my eyes is bigger than the other, and that's okay. You know, you can just correct it. And then we're going to go down to the beak, and I'm kind of just going to let that hair kind of come over because I like where the hair comes over the beak part of it. And, you know, your paint might look a little light, like from when I'm using here, it looks a little bit light, but you can just do a couple coats. It all depends on the paints. And, you know, I do different paints of acrylics. You know, I go from buying the cheapest stuff, which is $1. There's only one paint I've come across that I won't buy because I don't like the way it works. It just doesn't work for me. But there's all kinds of, at the, you know, craft stores you can get paint wise. I've even gone to Lowe's because I use so much paint now that I buy those little smaller cans and use those, and then buy these little plastic containers of Amazon and fill them up like that. And that's pretty cool too. So this is just some tips to learn. I learn over time. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry if you're going along with me on it, and we can see everything going on. We're gonna let the eyes dry, and we're gonna go to the next color. And the next color we're gonna use is going to be the blue color. Okay, so we're gonna use our blue. And we're going to do the same strokes. Now, you can use whatever blue you want. If you have a dark blue, I would just add some white and mix it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the blue in next. And we're going to just kind of feel in where you see it. You know, what you're looking for and you're training your eye to do is look for the yellow spots, okay? And you're going to just kind of do those strokes in. And when you come to the black, you just kind of do little bitty strokes because you don't want to cover it all in. Now, these areas right in through here, this area right in here and kind of down a little bit, we're going to do more white in there. So we're going to just not do as much in here because we want the eyes to pop out. So that's why we're going to put more white in there. But we're just going to spread it out a little bit in there as we're going through here. And then when you come down this way, you're just going to follow the directions. And then you don't have to really get real close to the eye because we're going to end up highlighting this at the end with the black. And you don't really have to get too close, but then you want to go stroke that way to get where the eyebrow is underneath it. You're going that way and kind of get it in through there. So as you see, the strokes that I'm doing, I'm going big or small. I'm moving the directions, you know, because if you take a look at an animal and their feathers, even, you know, even with dogs or cats, you will notice that none of their fur or, you know, that they wear, the feathers, they're not going all the same direction. Okay. Now, when we come over to the darker side of this side, we kind of want to go right on top of it because this is where our light is coming from. Okay. So we're just going to kind of come out on top of it, just pretty much almost on the black. See how I'm touching the black and then coming out. And that's because we don't want all that black to show, but we want it to show up that it has those little indentions going on with everything. So you can see how, as we're stroking, and you can take your time of getting those in there. And then you'll start seeing where your owl is starting to show up. And then when you come down below, you just want to make sure that you can, you know, you're just filling in next to it. You don't want to be exactly the same as the black. So you can see how we're filling it in, and you know, if there's more yellow, you might have to put more of the blue in there. Okay, and then we come back up here and we're doing the other side. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't get it in the camera here for y'all. Now, sometimes I will switch my hands. Now I'm going to switch it. Just my brain likes to have that every once in a while. I'll now try to do it. And so you'll see that I'm using my right hand. And so my right hand is, you know, it will go a little slower. But it's fun because you can train your brain to kind of, you know, do other things. So it's kind of fun to do. So as you kind of do that, you know, and if you make mistakes, like I said, just let it dry and then you can come back to it, you know. And so, and we're going to do right up here on top of the eyebrow here, little short strokes. And the short strokes are just, you know, they're kind of just barely touching it. And then we're going to kind of bring it down. Okay. Around the eyes. And then we're going to fill in. I'm going to try with my right hand. And if it's too small in there, just go ahead and color it in. It's not going to hurt it. Don't feel like you have to, you know, like around here, I'm kind of just coloring it in and then I'm kind of stroking in. The biggest key is when you're working on a painting is to, if you get too frustrated with it, just walk away from your painting. Go take a break, you know, go do something, go outside for a minute, and then just come back and you will see then that, you know, oh, I see where, you know, it's missing that feather, or I see that that feather is bigger than all the other feathers, you know. So this just kind of gives you an idea how you can get those strokes in, you know, with the blue. And then we've got this side over here. Okay. And then this side, you don't want to cover up all the black. but you kind of want to go just a little bit above it. So this one we went on top of it. This one we kind of go on above it, and then letting more of the black show. Make sure you can see that. Get that in camera. So if you can see that it kind of goes just like through that. Okay, so we kind of almost gotten most of the blue here just to get us started. Now, like I said, once you got all the blue in, okay, you know, we can always come back. So that's the fun part is about when you're creating feathers. One, you get relaxed. Two, you know, you get to do these strokes, and you can always change it. You can add different colors into it. Even though we're working with just these colors, you can go in and add other colors. You can add a gray color, but put the gray next to the darker colors. You could put the gray up and through here if you wanted to. You can even add a little bit of red or a purple if you'd like. So, I mean, I think that however way you want your bird to look like is fine. I mean, as this one, you could see that he's got longer hair over here. So maybe he lost some hair over here. It's not so long. So, you know, use your imagination. That's the fun part, is that when we get as adults, we just don't use our imagination much like we used to. So we're going to move on to the next color so we don't run out of time. And don't get frustrated if you haven't got everything in. At least you know what the steps are and where we're coming from. So we're going to clean out our brush, and we're going to go to the white color. And we got the white here after we cleaned our brush. And we're going to load that up, and we're going to first start with the white. Like I was talking about earlier, is that we're going to do the white through here as much as we can, and then it's going to kind of come down a little bit. So, and then the white is going to be used for our highlights. So you're going to have most of this area as you're stroking in, that you kind of put it in there to get his. And then if you find out you got too much white and you need more blue, that's okay too. And then we're kind of just bringing it out under the eye. And we're doing most of the white here because we want that owl to really stand out. And then barely touch through there. I mean, I know that, I'm going to see if you can, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. And I want you to see this where I'm barely touching it. And this is where you get a lot of details and just stuff when you're working it. See how I'm getting that right in there? That you can see the little details like that. Okay. So I'm going to zoom back out so you can still kind of see everything. All right. I just wanted to see, because that's really fun to do when you start noticing more things in pictures. You'll start noticing that little bitty, I mean, you just do really little strokes, barely touching it with your brush. And then you just kind of come through. Okay. And then you're going to just look for the yellow again. Okay. And we're going to start putting in the whites in between. Okay, now mine is going to be probably kind of like yours, where you might have more yellows than that, and that's okay. You know, we can go back and we can add, you know, but we're going to have more white on the left side because we have the triangle. So you can see that I just keep going with that stroke, you know, and it's really very simple to just keep doing that same stroke. You know, and if you want to, you can change your stroke a little bit with the next color. You know, you can see that my strokes are kind of pushed down a little bit more, where it makes it fatter little feathers, you know. When I look at chickens that I have, that, you know, their feathers are all different. I mean, I have 5 different chickens, and everyone got a different feather looking on there. So Anyways, but we don't want to feel, you know, you just want to feel in most of it that you can. You don't want to get too much of the white. And then as you come down below, you'll see your picture just coming alive as you're working with it. So you kind of just keep going with the whites. And this side, I'm kind of keeping more on that side. Now, we also want to do just a little bit of hair, you know, of the white that goes around. We don't want a whole lot because we want to keep it into the eyes. So where that black was right through there, you know, you can put more of the white so it stands out on this edge where that black is. Because, you know, now you can't even see the chalk that we painted over because it dissolves really fast. That's why I really like the chalk. And I used to do it with pencil, and I would just be in coats and coats of paint trying to cover up with pencil. Well, now my chalk has become my favorite. And so I use that to really get in. And if you find out you lose some of your, you know, portions or whatever, just let it dry and come back at it. If you get frustrated, don't get frustrated with it. It takes time sometimes. Sometimes, you know, it's like my hand got too frustrated there for a minute, or moved too much. But I was saying frustrated, but don't get frustrated with the strokes. Just keep practicing. The more you, you know, get more pictures of reference using chickens. I'll show you before it's all said and done. I'll show you a picture of a chicken that you can do the same stroke with. Okay. And then I don't have too much under here under the eye because we don't want too much underneath that black. You can put a little bit in there. Okay. So this just kind of gives us some ideas of how to put some of the white through there. And then, of course, after you do the white, how are we doing on time right now?
You're doing great. It's 4:50. So you still got about
4:50. Okay. So anyways, we're not going to get all the strokes in because, you know, it depends on how you paint and how fast you paint. But we got the white in here. But don't be afraid to go back, even though we haven't covered everything on all the feathers. Don't be afraid to come back with some more blue or more black or white. You can rotate all those colors and go right back through them. Now, for me to show you everything, you know, of course, we still got spaces that we can do feathers, but, you know, we don't want to keep everybody hanging on the meeting real long. So what we're going to do is the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put the black into the eyes over here. Okay, so this one is always fun to do. Is I take the end of my paintbrush and I take my paint. Okay, got some water on there, and I take my black paint, and what I do is I dip it and rub it around in the black, and here comes the magic. We're gonna put it on there and dot it, and I kind of move it around. Ta-da! It's like magic. I like this part, as you can see. So you can do it again. Put it on the end. Put it right on the middle, and I kind of just move it around just a little bit, and look, that's how we get our perfect little dots. And this is good to do dot painting too, if you ever get into that, but that's only if you have patience for that. So the next thing that we do is we take our smaller, thin brushes. You can buy some that are super, super thin that you can pretty much write with. I have those that are kind of interesting, but we're going to take our black, and we're going to load. When you load this to get it to thin, is you load it, drag it, load it, drag it, load it and drag it, you know, 2 or 3 times. And then, you know, we're going to highlight the outer of the eyes. And if you want them thin or if you want a thicker one, is fine. I mean, you're going to see, I mean, if you were in a room, we were all in a room and doing this, you're going to look at your partner or anybody on the screen, and you're going to see that their owl is not going to look the same as yours. Your owl is not going to look the same as mine, because they don't need to be the same. They just need to be your own style. So you can see how this thin one, you can get some lines done, and we're going to outline them, and then we're going to outline. So anything you want to outline is I save it at the end. And so I'm not going to do all of it up on top, because I kind of like the little hair coming down. And so I'm just kind of doing some more hair black that comes down, because I think it's kind of unique and it makes it stand out. Okay. And so then I'm going to have to turn, like I said, people sometimes, really, can I really turn my canvas? I say, yeah. So when I'm doing classes with people, I just said, do what makes you feel good. You know, if you have to turn your whole canvas around, and that's why I'm turning mine around, so you can see. This is the only way sometimes I can get my line straight, you know, and I just kind of keep turning around until I get that shape, see? And I don't have to struggle as much. So you can see how that works. So that's how that ends up working on that. So we're going to do, we did the eyes, dotted it in. And of course, the last thing that we do is you can take a pencil, or you can take a paintbrush, sign your name. I always tell people to sign it with a felt pen, and that's why we have a felt pen. So you take the felt pen and sign your name and date it. And the reason is that when you decide to keep this or take a picture of it, you can actually see the difference that you have painted over the years. If you paint different times and do different things, that, you know, you have different ways that you can see that you've changed. So a lot of times I take and recycle my canvases. So I'll take pictures of them, and I have I have all the pictures of them. And then what happens is that I go down the line and go, wow, you know, I've been working on those feather strokes and now I really got it down. So now I guess I hope you enjoyed this. I guess we'll see if there's any questions anybody has. It could be from anything that you want to ask. Now is a good time to ask.
I actually like the idea of just walking away when you're frustrated. I think that that's such good advice that people forget.
Yeah.
So
I have to do that a lot. I even put it, I think that even if you put it on a wall, and I necessarily have to take it off the wall of my art room, and I put it like in the living room, and I sat on it and look at it for a couple of days to see. That always helps.
I do some collage work, and one thing I've found that actually works for me is to take a picture of it and look at the picture. There's something about looking at the picture of the piece of artwork that I see it differently, and that's helped me a lot. Just kind of like rethink what I'm doing, or see stuff that I don't see for whatever reason looking at the art, which just seems crazy. It seems like you should thing, but
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think there's all kinds of tips that you learn after, you know,
after
doing things.
100 years. Yeah. Well, that's great. Are there any other questions?
Oh, I have a question. This is Cassie. So this is really fun. Thank you so much for leading us through this. And I was just wondering, so if you've ever been in a situation where, say, you made something too big, like proportionately, like the beak, for instance, I've got my beak a little bit too wide. Do you recommend just coming back over that with paint, or maybe even making the black hair on the top wider to match it? I'm just trying to think of the best way to.
What I would do with this scenario is if I was looking at the owl and I was like, okay, the beak is too big, I would go with the black color too. What I would do is just kind of, you know, take the black and then just stroke down like this. And then when it's wet, then just kind of do that feather stroke, so that when you feather stroke it out, you know, it'll kind of blend in with it.
Yeah.
And I think that will correct it quite a bit, you know, because if I'm messing with this one, you can see I could pretty much cover over it. Now, if it still doesn't work that way for you, what I would do is I would take a light gray and just like paint over the whole thing
Mhm.
and then let it dry, and then take your chalk and then do the shape again, and then go in and then color it, you know, because you don't want to go too dark of a color, but sometimes you can use white or gray. A lot of times white is harder because you got to keep going on top of it. Unless your paint's really thick, then
Okay.
it would work. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds
And so
good.
that could give you another option, you know, painting over it. I've done that. I'm working on a piece right now that I'm trying to get the galaxy, and I don't like it. So I'm just going to paint right over it again. So that's the fun part about the acrylics is, you know, you could just take it and, you know, just paint over it, you know,
Yeah.
and,
Layers like that.
or just, you know, if you get too frustrated with it, don't make yourself so frustrated that you're like, I give up. That's the part that I don't want people to do. So what I would say is just leave it. And that owl just has a big nose. Who cares?
Right.
You know, and then just get another canvas or paint over the canvas or get some paper. And, you know, there's plenty of things around your house, wood, whatever it is. I mean, I've used all kinds of stuff, like, you know, so, just keep practicing on it.
You want to show us yours? I can pin the video for you.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see it. This is what I got.
Absolutely.
So you can see how it's a little wide up top, but I'm gonna maybe put some more black to even that up.
Can you see it, Lettie?
No, on my end, I don't see anybody. It's kind of interesting. I just see myself.
I think it looks great, Cassie. I can see what you're talking about, though. You could just, like she said, just a little bit over those corners, and it would be, I love it. That's awesome.
This is so much fun.
Good.
Awesome.
Any other questions from anyone? I think we're good. Lettie, I just want to say that was great. I went to school for 4 years for art school, and I think I picked up more tips in this hour than all of that. I wish I had done your
Oh, well, I'm so glad. Thank you. That's nice to hear. So
yeah, it was really good. And so this, like I said, is going to be on Vimeo. Do you have, and you sell your work online, right? Do you have a site that you can let people know where
I have a website, which is Lettie, or designbylettie.com is my website. And I don't have all my pieces, but I do have an Instagram where I show all the recent stuff. And then you just kind of, you know, you can always text me and say, hey, I'm interested in that. Because sometimes they go fast. Sometimes, you know, I just don't have enough time to load everything up on my website. But I have a few of them on the website. Now, the ones that I do for the class, I usually don't have those on my website. I just work with people that say, okay, this is what we're gonna, you know.
And what's your, who are you on Instagram? What's your name there?
The name on it is Design by Lettie.
Same on Instagram. Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
There you go. So folks can check you out there. We really appreciate your time to show everyone these techniques. It's really great. And yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming, and had fun showing this, and hopefully you can walk away being relaxed, 1, and 2, learn something new. We all learn something. So
absolutely.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.